Greetings, I'm Rachel, 35 years old, and currently navigating the difficult process of divorcing my less than ideal husband. After we said, I do, it felt like a switch had flipped, and my husband started treating me poorly. From the beginning, his family made it clear they were not fond of me. They didn't make their disdain overt, but it was evident they were only tolerating me because of my connection to Mark. Over the years, their animosity only grew stronger. The tipping point came during a recent family vacation. What was meant to be a relaxing getaway quickly turned sour. Our itinerary was simple: drop off our bags, unwind, and enjoy a dinner reservation at Passion. But after dinner, some family members wanted to get heavily intoxicated, putting the next day's plans at risk. Two family members suggested that while the younger generation could party, the older generation, including the parents, should opt for a more relaxed evening, considering their age and need for rest. We were all excited about the vacation, hoping it would be a break from our daily routines and a chance to create happy memories. I was optimistic that the vacation might ease some of the tension and animosity, but it became clear that Mark's family had other plans. Upon arriving in Dr. Everything seemed fine until we reached our hotel. Madison and Emma were irritable, exchanging curses and shouts. Kevin and Jonathan engaged in disruptive antics, causing chaos at the hotel. Meanwhile, Mark was busy berating me for his lack of proper planning. In the midst of the commotion, he demanded to know where his socks were and blamed me for not packing them. Frustrated, I reminded him that I had laid out the socks for him and made it clear that I wasn't his mother. Tensions rose as others entered, asking about the bar and urging me to get drinks despite our tight schedule and the upcoming restaurant reservation. They dismissed my concerns and insisted I fulfill my role. Despite being a highly respected chef, my in-laws and even Mark often treated me like a mere waitress. Emma's comment about my job exacerbated my frustration. Well, she didn't mean it that way, Rachel said. Don't overreact. It was just a slip of the tongue. I mean, you work as a waitress, right? How many times do I have to remind you that I'm a skilled chef now? I snapped. Rachel, let's not escalate this. Let's all take a deep breath. I'm tired and hungry. Let's focus on preparing for the restaurant. Initially, I thought the fatigue from the flight was affecting everyone's mood and that once we adjusted to the new surroundings, we would start to enjoy the vacation. But I was wrong. The restaurant experience was a disaster, and I was mortified by my in-laws' behavior. They complained about everything, and as someone in the restaurant industry, I was their constant target. They seemed to think I knew everything about every restaurant. Rachel, dear, this sushi tastes off. Why is that? I don't know, I replied. The ambience here is also off. Can you talk to your restaurant contacts to see if they can change that? I don't work here, I explained. No need to be rude. He's just asking a question. You should know more about this stuff since you work in the restaurant industry. I had to correct the situation before I completely lost my composure. Onlookers stared, and I felt utterly mortified. The vacation had devolved into a nightmare. I was constantly criticized, yelled at, and treated like a maid, tending to everyone's needs. It no longer felt like a vacation. It seemed as though I was brought along just to be bossed around and bullied. My suspicions were confirmed when I discovered that the planned activities for the next 3 days excluded me entirely. Each morning, I awoke to find their rooms empty. I spent my days idly waiting for their return, only to see them come back late, intoxicated, and recounting tales of their apparently fantastic adventures. Oh my goodness, did you see Dad's fall off the boat while tubing? It was hysterical, one would exclaim. Really? It wasn't that funny, another would reply. Come on, it was the funniest thing ever. Someone else would chime in. I would interject, hey guys, and they would respond with a casual, oh, hey darling, how are you? When I asked why we hadn't gone tubing together, there was a brief, uncomfortable silence. It was as if they were scrambling for an excuse. Finally, Mark said, oh, you were sleeping, so we didn't want to disturb you. I replied, okay, but you could have woken me up. This is supposed to be a family vacation, right? My initial assumptions were confirmed. It became clear that I was there to serve rather than to enjoy the vacation with the family. But the worst was yet to come. As our 3-week trip to Doctor was coming to an end, we were all packed and ready to leave. The last dinner was uneventful, and we went to bed with the intention of enjoying our final day before our afternoon flight. I woke up around 10 a.m. Not too late considering our 5 p.m. flight. To my shock, I found the house deserted. Mark, Madison, Emma, Kevin, and Jonathan had all left. Their bags nowhere to be found. I was stunned. I frantically called Mark and, as my anxiety peaked, contacted the front desk for answers. The receptionist confirmed my worst fears. Everyone had left around 9 a.m. And she was equally puzzled that I was the only one left behind. The question that loomed was, why leave me? Sitting alone and grappling with the situation, my initial hurt and confusion turned into a simmering anger. It became clear that they harbored a deep aversion towards me. Although there had been hints of their hostility through their exclusion, I hadn't fully grasped their extent of cruelty. Despite my urge to call and confront them, I decided instead to plot my revenge. I was done with their games. As I calmed myself from the earlier panic, I reminded myself of the beautiful surroundings and resolved not to waste the rest of the trip on tears or self-pity. I decided to turn the situation around and make the most of my extended vacation. I successfully arranged to extend both my visa and my stay at the exquisite resort. Surprisingly, fortune seemed to favor me, and I began to believe in miracles. Downsizing to a more intimate room, I found new freedom, unburdened by unnecessary space. Without the constraints of a pre-planned itinerary, I took control of my vacation, booking a variety of exciting experiences, from cruises and casino tours to hiking, tubing, shopping, and even glamping. I indulged in a whirlwind of extravagant adventures. During my escapades, I met a group of vibrant single women around my age. Sharing my experiences with them, particularly the trials of my toxic relationship with my husband and in-laws, I found solace and support. Their immediate solidarity and willingness to stand up for me highlighted the beauty of genuine friendship. This new circle of friends added joy and companionship to my activities. Relishing the freedom of my solo vacation, I appreciated the contrast between their kindness and the disdainful attitude of my ex-husband and his family. Over the next 2 weeks, each day brought new delights and solidified my sense of happiness. On the day Mark and his toxic crew departed, I received a phone call from him that set the tone for our conversation. Despite feeling a mix of frenzy and overwhelm, I maintained a composed demeanor, determined not to let them see the impact of their actions. "Hello," I answered calmly. "Your tone sounds reassuring. I trust your journey was safe," Mark said, his voice laced with an insincere concern. "Yes, the flight was smooth. Are you okay?" "Absolutely. I have plans for the evening, but that's none of your concern." "Excuse me, but as your husband and family, we have a right to know your plans." "Well, it's funny you mention family, considering families and husbands don't just abandon each other." I woke up to an empty house, fully aware that this trip was just an excuse to use me. "Spare me your feigned sympathy, it's as convincing as fish-flavored ice cream. Your mistake was leaving me in doctor. Your foolishness actually worked in my favor, letting me enjoy my vacation without your toxic presence." "Mark, if it wasn't clear before, I want a divorce. Tonight, I'm going out with someone charming named David. Your attempts to break me only strengthened my resolve. Apologies for shattering your expectations, but I surpass you in every way. My new life is more than enough for my happiness. I hope you get the day you think you deserve." Before he could respond, I ended the call. Mark and his family, now my ex-husband and in-laws, bombarded me with calls and texts, all of which I ignored. I spent the rest of my time in the Dominican Republic enjoying my vacation and sharing highlights through Instagram. Despite their attempts to gain my attention with comments, my followers defended me passionately. As a celebrated chef, I had a significant following that knew how to handle such negativity. Although seeing their attempts at trolling was satisfying, it wasn't enough to quench my thirst for revenge. As my extended vacation drew to a close, I faced the reality awaiting me back in Louisiana. Rather than returning home immediately, I chose to stay in a hotel, leaving my adversaries in suspense about my whereabouts. I returned to my fulfilling job and shared updates on social media to signal my return, all while deliberately avoiding communication with Mark and his family. Ignoring their relentless 100 messages and missed calls, I remained unresponsive. The idea of revenge had been brewing, but it crystallized into a plan only when I realized how to strike at the core of their tightly knit family bonds. They derived satisfaction from uniting against me, so I contemplated how they might react if their unity was threatened by their own internal conflicts. My conviction was that those who seek to destroy others often have the most fragile self-esteem, vulnerable to sudden collapse. Not to mention, this family managed a joint business, and I suspected their professional dealings might have included scheming against me. 2 months later, I decided to reach out to Mark and engage in a conversation. "Hello, Mark. It's Rachel. Oh, it's good to hear from you. The house has been chaotic without you. Things just haven't been the same. We all miss you. Where have you been staying? That's not your concern. However, I need to address something that's been weighing on my mind. Please, don't deny what you said about the divorce. I meant every word, but I have something more troubling to share. Is everything okay? Since I'm moving forward with the divorce, I think it's only fair to tell you what I witnessed and overheard while we were together. I stayed silent out of fear, but now I have nothing to lose. I often heard Madison and Jonathan favoring Emma and Kevin over you. They considered you weak and kept you around just to mistreat you. Remember our vacation? The way they treated you? They planned to subject you to the same ordeal. Remember when they made you drive 3 hours to a store, pretending they didn't know? They knew all along. Oh, that's ridiculous. Mom and Dad would never do that. That's not all. Kevin and Emma also pulled some tricks. Remember that seminar you wanted to attend? They had an extra invitation that could have been yours, but they gave it to your cousin Samuel instead. You're making this up. They wouldn't treat me like that. We're family. Are you sure you want to believe that? They have a separate chat group without you, just like you have one without me. No way. I refuse to believe you. If you choose to remain in denial, that's your prerogative. But here's one last revelation. Your mother has been cheating on your father for the past 10 years with someone named Beverly, a contractor. I don't believe a word you're saying. You must be lying. Don't believe me? Fine. Verify it yourself. At that moment, I bombarded him with a flurry of texts and email threads corroborating everything I had mentioned. It turns out that with a dedicated group of followers, you can unearth any information you need. No need for private investigators. My savvy online network provided all the evidence required for me to confront Mark one last time and sever ties with him and his dysfunctional family. As expected, this revelation caused a storm of tension and upheaval. I captured the entire confrontation on the house's installed cameras. Mark had orchestrated a family meeting for a significant discussion, but it quickly devolved into chaos. It was revealed that Emma had been embezzling small sums of Kevin's money for years, causing friction and dissatisfaction. Meanwhile, Jonathan was exposed for a 5-year affair with a coworker while cheating on Madison. The house erupted into a cacophony of shouting and objects being thrown. Animosity seemed to seep into every relationship, and I watched the spectacle unfold from my hotel room with popcorn and soda in hand, thoroughly enjoying the drama. A couple of months later, the family business they had run for generations began to crumble. The discord and infighting within the family had a disastrous impact on their business, leading to a steep decline in subscribers and eventual bankruptcy. Their once thriving business was reduced to a shadow of its former self, sullying the family name. Communication between them ceased entirely, and even their extended families began to distance themselves. A pervasive sense of misery and isolation took hold, confirming that my revenge had been more than just a fleeting success, it had been thoroughly achieved.